call me Mystic Mike because I predict these things.
Kevin Holland takes on Daniel Rodriguez this Saturday in the feature fight of UFC 318. And this is going to be a fun fight. You know, both of these guys getting back in there pretty quickly since their last fights. Both of them coming off of wins. Daniel Rodriguez on a 2-fight winning streak over Alex Morono by split decision. Not a great look. And then finished Santiago Ponzinibbio in the 3rd round back in May. So he's hopping back in there. Little over 2 months later, whereas Kevin Holland, also on a 2-fight winning streak, beat Gunnar Nelson by decision in March, hopped right back in there against Vicente Luque, got the Anaconda choke in the 2nd round in June, and he's hopping back in there a month later. So didn't take a lot of damage in either of those fights. Kevin Holland, you know, likes to stay busy, and I like that he's staying busy. You know, he was one of those guys during COVID. He fought 4 or 5 times in 1 calendar year. So I think the more active he is, and I think the more active he is, the more successful he is. And I think 170 pounds is his weight class. So Kevin Holland, 32 years old, has a lot of experience for being 32. You know, he's been in the UFC since 2018, fought a lot of really high-level guys while he's been there. 6'3" with an 81-inch reach in 28-13. So not the best record, you could say, but you know, his losses are all to really good guys. There's no schmucks that are beating Kevin Holland in his career. But he's a Travis Lutter jiu-jitsu black belt. You know, he usually likes to keep it on the feet, has very good striking, but very dangerous on the ground as well. You know, you wouldn't think that considering his losses to Ranier de Ridder, Roman Dolidze, things like that, but has very good performances against, you know, Chiesa, Olechechuk. He had that fight against, Ronaldo Souza, where he was able to really kind of negate his grappling and then knock him out from his guard. He looks like he's starting to take his career seriously, cutting to 170 pounds and staying active. I said in his fight leading into the Ranier de Ridder fight, I thought he was going to piece up Ranier de Ridder, and then he ended up just getting taken down and submitted. So then going into the Gunnar Nelson fight, I felt like I couldn't trust him anymore. And then he went in and, you know, ran a clinic on Gunnar Nelson, hurt him in the 1st round, was able to defend all the takedowns, stay safe, and just, you know, damage Gunnar Nelson the entire fight. And then getting somebody out there like Vicente Luque, who loves those front chokes, the anacondas, the darces, kind of choked him out with his own move. And, you know, he just looks back into his true form. You know, he, like I said, just very dangerous on the feet, very fast, very rangy, has a lot of power for his frame. You know, he's not the most muscled up dude, but he has a lot of torque and a lot of snap to his strikes, and just has a lot of finishing potential wherever the fight goes. You know, the only bad thing I could say about Kevin Holland is his takedown defense, but I feel like at 170 pounds, the guys aren't big enough to really, you know, get him down, because he's a tall guy. He's kind of like a tabletop. You know, he's hard to bring to the ground unless you're just much bigger and stronger than him, and I just don't think people can do that at 170 pounds against him. So I just think he's elite on the feet with good speed, good power, uses all of his weapons, knees, kicks, strikes, uses his range very well, also uses his length on the ground to get, you know, triangles, darces, things like that, and just has really good scrambling ability at 170 pounds to stay safe and get back up to his feet like we saw in his last fight against Gunnar Nelson. Daniel Rodriguez, he is 38, so he's getting up there in age, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach, so he's going to be 2 inches shorter, and he's going to be giving up 7 inches in reach. And he'll be, like I said, 38, going to be 39 in December. He has really good boxing, primarily a boxer with a snappy jab, does have inside leg kicks, likes to throw teep kicks, rips to the body very well, comes upstairs with it as well, and a very powerful, good left hook. He's kind of one of those guys that, like, moves into the pocket, and he can kind of be hesitant there, where he kind of stays in there too long to where he can be hit, but he also stays there for the timing purposes and to counter guys as they're throwing their strikes as well. Has kind of loopy punches where he throws from the hip, which kind of leaves him to be countered, but really he's only throwing like that when he gets guys hurt. We saw that in his last fight against Santiago Ponzinibbio. But all in all, pretty good striker, pretty good boxer with decent power, and jiu-jitsu purple belt. So he's going to be outclassed on the ground. I can guarantee that by Kevin Holland if it does go there. But I think if anybody's going to be initiating takedowns, it'll be Daniel Rodriguez, and I think he's going to pay for that. So I think Kevin Holland will be looking to keep it on the feet more than likely. Daniel Rodriguez, you know, always good cardio, though. Don't really have to worry about that from him, and the same with Kevin Holland. But I'm going to go with Kevin Holland in this one. You know, if if Alex Morono is having the success that he had against Daniel Rodriguez on the feet, then I think Kevin Holland would spark him and get him out of there. You know, I love Alex Morono, but he's nowhere near the level of striker that Kevin Holland is. And, you know, Daniel Rodriguez, he got choked out by Neil Magny. Didn't look, like I said, didn't look the best against Morono. Lost to Kelvin Gastelum, was just getting outclassed by Ian Gary on the feet, which, you know, is what it is. Ian Gary's very good, but Holland's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. I think he's the better boxer. I think he's going to be faster. He's going to have more power. I think Kevin Holland is one of the best strikers at 170 pounds in a pure striking bout. I think if you try to keep it on the feet with Kevin Holland, which I don't think Daniel Rodriguez is going to have a choice. I don't think he's going to have a lot of grappling success on Kevin Holland. I think it's going to be a bad night out for him. You know, it's going to be a bad night out for 95% of the 170-pound division if they try to purely strike with Kevin Holland. And I just don't think Daniel Rodriguez at this point in his career has the skills to beat somebody like Kevin Holland, who's just very well-rounded. I don't think he has the wrestling to really threaten him there. And I think Kevin Holland can get him out of there. If Ian Gary is knocking you out and hurting you on the feet, if, you know, Morono is having the success that he is, then I think Kevin Holland will as well. Kevin Holland is, you know, he's got tons of momentum now, tons of finishing potential. I think he's better than Daniel Rodriguez everywhere. And I think he can get him out of there. I think he can hurt him on the feet, get him out of there. I think he can hurt him, get him, you know, panic shooting takedowns, and find his, you know, his front headlock series, Anaconda Darces, and get Daniel Rodriguez out of there. Or he can just be beating him up and winning wherever the fight goes to get a decision. But I do think this is a favorable matchup for Kevin Holland. Somebody who's not going to be looking to really just be shooting takedowns a lot, is going to be looking to keep it on the feet. And I just think that's a recipe for disaster for somebody like Daniel Rodriguez, who's getting up there in age and hasn't looked the best as of late. Yes, I respect a win over Ponzinibbio, but Ponzinibbio's taken a lot of damage as of late. And he's also 38, 39 years old. Got a lot of wear on the tires, been in a lot of wars in the UFC. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. I haven't looked at the odds, but I can't imagine that Holland isn't a huge favorite. Minus 410. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. You know, Kevin Holland's he's on an absolute run right now, taking fights back to back to back, not taking a lot of damage. There's going to be no, you know, octagon jitters or anything. And still in his prime. Still in his prime. Looking really good, taking his career seriously at 170 pounds. I think the deck is stacked against Daniel Rodriguez. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. I think he can get this one done. I think he can get the finish over Daniel Rodriguez within the distance. Thanks.